So lovely to meet you.
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad that Kiara introduced us. When I first met her the first time, actually, that was when she told me about you. And so I obviously followed you right away and I've been keeping up with you. I think your music is great. I think you're great. So I'm really excited
Good.
to dive in.
Thank you.
Of course, of
Much
course,
appreciated.
of course. Yeah, I'm excited to dive in. And something that I was wanting to ask up front is when you released your mixtape, I promise I'm getting somewhere with this question. It's going to start as a yes or no, and then I'm going to go deeper into it. When you released your mixtape, did you release it on SoundCloud?
Yes.
Okay. I have noticed I'm very into SoundCloud and like following new people on there. I have noticed it's become not oversaturated because everyone on there is talented, but it's a lot harder to get discovered. So you were on there 4 years ago. Do you think that was part of why you were able to blow up relatively quickly? You kind of got on before everyone else found out about it.
Yeah, I mean, from the jump, that was probably the easiest way to get it out for free too, especially
Mhm.
when I didn't exactly know what I was doing. I think early on though, one of my goals was to get on like Spotify and Apple. So like from the jump, I kind of attacked all of them. Like right when I figured out how to get onto all of them, I attacked all of them and got my music like every single platform that I could.
For
But
sure.
SoundCloud was great. SoundCloud definitely was one of the starters.
Okay, got it. And would you say that you've been kind of instrumental on your own in figuring out, how do I get myself on SoundCloud? How do I get myself on Spotify? How do I get myself on Apple Music? Because that's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. I would say I've been pretty instrumental in like most of the tasks that are associated with the start of the song to the finished product of being able to go click it and download it. But definitely figuring out how to do that. It was a little Google process, but it actually was not too difficult. They've made it relatively easy for artists to get music up nowadays, which I think is great. We got a lot of music coming from different people.
For sure, for sure. And I would hope, especially during the pandemic, that it was easier to like I saw people putting their music back on CD Baby, which I
Oh
didn't have
yeah,
in like 10
CD
years. I'm like,
baby.
we're going back to like the beginning because it used to be you had to put it on CD Baby and then it would go to iTunes.
Yep, exactly.
This was a very long time ago. So I think it's awesome that music has become so accessible during the pandemic. And you actually released your album in July of last year. So
I
not
did, yeah.
right at the height of the pandemic, but I mean pretty much.
Still in it
So
for sure.
yeah, could you talk me through that process as far as writing, recording, all of that during a pandemic, or had you already had everything ready to go and you just wanted to wait till summer?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked the question. My first music video that was kind of like the start of the whole rollout of the entire album, it dropped the weekend before like events started getting canceled because of COVID. And I tore with this dance company, and like we were on the road every weekend, and all of a sudden, like right after I dropped the music video and kind of get the rollout started, COVID just shut it down cold turkey, and like, all live events were shut down pretty much instantaneously. So I wasn't planning for that. It was kind of at the height of COVID that was going to be the height of my album release and kind of the moves we were making around that. But I roll with the punches. Everybody thought, I'll give it a couple more weeks. A couple weeks it'll probably be gone, and then like a couple weeks turn into a year and a half or whatever. So we waited a couple months. We made things happen, and finally we're like, let's just release it. Let's just get it out there and do what we can in the time being.
Yeah, because at some point you just have to go for it. It's like I've talked to multiple other artists who are like, yeah, I wanted to wait to release it in, I don't know, August because there was this venue that was supposed to be opening back up and I could do a release party there. And come August, it's
For
like, no,
sure.
happening. So I'm sure you also learned a lot of like digital strategies in doing that. Did you do any live
Yeah.
shows, Instagram lives, anything like that to push it out?
Yeah, I got asked to do a couple different live streams. It was like a company put it together. There's different artists, and like the whole audience was kind of put into one area. So I did that a few different times and put some sets together. Just definitely to like keep people engaged and stay busy for myself, have fun with it, perform the
Mhm.
music that I was making because I made this great album, and I wanted people. Half the time I envision when I'm creating it to be saying these things on stage, and then like all of a sudden there is no stage. So obviously the live performances is pretty much the best way you have to express some of these things to people and get that engagement as best as you can. While it's digital, it's still something.
Yeah, it's something. And I think too, it can be kind of even more interactive in a way because you can read the comments and
For
pause. You're not like
sure.
there's not a million people around you, like doing mic checks and lighting and everything. I mean, maybe there is, but you can still take that step back and talk to the fans, right on an Instagram live, which I think is
Definitely.
actually pretty cool. And I have to say, going back a bit, I love the name of your first mixtape, Knowledge Speaks, Wisdom Listens.
Knowledge
I
speaks,
was like,
wisdom listens.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was dwelling on that and I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm wondering if that is a mantra of yours that you bring into every aspect of your life or into the writing process or any of that.
Yeah, well, I released it in 2017. I would say back then it definitely was. I heard it in this Jimi Hendrix documentary. It was on Netflix at the time. It's not anymore. Played by Andre 3000. Love Three Stacks. So like, anything he does, I was tuned in. And like the documentary wasn't that great, but randomly, like 45 minutes in, he said that line. He was like smoking a cigarette, like, knowledge speaks, wisdom listens. And kind of the moment I was like, wow, that's powerful. Like it's not, it doesn't say a ton, but it says everything. And I felt like it kind of resonated with me just because like I'm a very I think people consider me wise because I listen. I'm a sponge. I soak things in, and I like just when I heard it, I was like, wow, I think that's a good way to title this album, to kind of this period of my life back in 2017. So I rocked with it back then, and still it's a good way to think of things,
It is. Yeah, I've been holding on to it this morning. I'm like, that's a
That's
really
what's
cool
up.
thing. And I think it also you have to be a really good listener in this business. And I think for you especially, I mean, you've done so much of it on your own, which I think is great, but you're still getting advice via Google or via the internet or something like that. So I think it's really important to keep music as a collaborative thing. And I think you really have found a great balance of, I want to do everything from A to Z, but also like I'm open to collaborating with other people and stuff like that. So
100%. Yeah.
no, I guess that wasn't really a question. It was just a comment, but I
Well,
had to
to
applaud you.
piggyback on that, I'm kind of actually like transitioning into trying to collaborate much more with people because so like it's very easy for me to get into the habit of like I make my own song. It's just me. I have the whole vision for it. And like while that's good and great, like it's I'm looking to branch out definitely more this year and then in the next couple of years, start to work with more people, more engineers, different producers, tap into the different people in my area. I just because like, I can keep doing what I'm doing and I love to do it, but I've definitely like somewhat exhausted just like honing into my studio, doing my thing. Like I've done that for a long time. And I think in doing so, I've figured out my process. I figured out how I work. I've just discovered my sound. But now that I kind of have that, I'm ready to branch out. I'm ready to collaborate and start making different waves with different people and getting into the scene that way,
Yeah, and it's gonna hopefully become a bit easier with some restrictions being lifted. I mean, not all, but again, I know people who have, like you, basically made an album in a pandemic, and it is possible. You have to get creative, but I guess at the end of the day, all artists have to be creative in some capacity. So, and did you experience any creative burnout? Because it's almost like last year, I talked to a lot of artists and it's like, well, I don't have to go to my day job or I don't have any live shows. Like I just need to be writing. And if you face that, how did you be like, no, I can still give myself a break?
For sure. The only burnout I experienced, and I'm not sure if you'd call it burnout, but it was when like I remember at the beginning of quarantine when there was like a lot of people in my home and there was too many things happening. It was like my zone, my space, my studio was like I couldn't do what I wanted to do out of it. And because of that, like I didn't feel creative. I didn't feel like like the motor wasn't running and like it just was very easy to kind of step away until things got better. And like we just talked about, things didn't get better for a while. So there was a period of time when like I just didn't have my space. And like because of that, like I didn't have that same drive to just get to it every day. So I definitely had some struggles along the COVID journey, as I'm sure we all did. But
Yes.
you know, there was definitely also moments where it was just me in the studio and I had nothing to do but just create.
Mhm.
And I guess I'm kind of fortunate of the way it went out, and because of that, there was definitely moments when like I pumped out some dope stuff because I had nothing to do other than sit at home and make music.
Yeah, yeah. And I've heard that sometimes that's where the best inspiration comes from is just when you're alone with your thoughts. So I wouldn't
For
know. I'm
sure.
very far from a singer songwriter. But I've always loved relating music to poetry because I think music has the power to tell a story. And I will say, I don't know if you've not necessarily experienced this, but just heard it. I know that a long time ago, hip hop and rap music was kind of considered like raunchy and like, oh, how can this be inspirational? But I feel like that's changing with people like you. Have you heard of Whit Lowry?
I've not heard of Whit Lowry. You're gonna have
Oh
to
my
send me.
gosh.
It's a girl? It's a woman?
It's a guy.
It's a guy.
He's one of the first like people who does hip hop and rap that I started like really listening to because
Oh wow.
the lines are so powerful and
Let me hear it.
yeah, and he mixes it with EDM, which I love.
Sweet.
And like
Dope.
different local producers, but he's very much into like rap doesn't always need to be this like thing that people just think is empty words or empty messages. So just talking about, scandalous things. So I think
Yeah.
you're also helping break that stigma. But have you like do you think that rappers are still getting backlash or what's been your experience?
Much love on what you said before. I think that like hip hop is poetry a lot of the time. Maybe not all the time, but like in its roots, rap music is poetry, and that's the way that I approach it.
Mhm.
But I also think at the same time, like all of the music we're hearing, it all has its place. Like
Yeah.
everything has its place. The poetic, the raunchy, the empty words, even that like truly has its place, and I can appreciate that for what it is. Some people say like hip hop is dying, and I'm like, no, that's definitely not the case. You're just not listening to the right things or focusing on the fact that there's a it's oversaturated in the sense that there's a lot of people making a similar type of music, sure, but I think it all has its place, and that's the best part about hip hop for me is that like there's a little bit of everything, and I can appreciate all of it.
Hmm. For sure. And I think like hip hop is almost not becoming one and the same with pop, but like if you even listen to some of the Dua Lipa music and like the beat is inspired by hip hop on a lot of
100%, 100%.
music.
Because it knocks. People like that knock, and you've
I
seen
know.
you've seen that kind of like the feeling you get from those hip hop drums. You've seen it come into pop. You've seen it come into like other genres. Like I've seen like country start to adapt
Mhm.
it a little bit, and rock kind of bring in like the 808 a little bit more. Yeah, 100%. And I love all types of music, but I think because of that, hip hop has always stood out to me, and the poetry aspect of it. But yeah,
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. My cousin actually took a class about like the history of hip hop in
damn,
college a few years
offer
ago.
that class to me. Damn.
I know, I know. I want if she still has like any assignments from the class, I will ask her. But she would like talk about the idea of conscious rap and like the roots of hip hop and rap. And I'm like, that's really fascinating because I actually didn't even know that. I thought it was all just, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was all just like this scandalous stuff. And it's
No,
not.
yeah, and actually, to be honest with you, like that's my favorite type of music. My favorite artist is Kendrick Lamar. Most of my favorite, like top 5 MCs, are all like conscious, very lyrical artists. And like, while I do like all different types of music, that definitely goes the farthest, has the biggest impact on me. So, like, I think that's kind of why I bring that into my own music because, like, you can. I've had lots of times where I've listened to dumb, catchy songs, but the impactful, lyrical, deep songs are definitely the ones that stand out and have the biggest impact for me.
For sure. I love that. For me too, and I think going back to what you said about there's a place for all types of music. Like if I'm at a club, I don't really want to be all sentimental. So it's like, yeah, bring on the
Like
music
sometimes
that's
I
good
want
for
Gucci
me.
Gang. Sometimes I want Gucci Gang. I'm sorry, like it's not my
Yeah.
favorite song, but every once in a while, it's fun, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it. I try to be very open minded and just let it be what it be, and it's like there's a song in hip hop for everybody. I don't like when people hate. It's like, yo, I could show you 5 things right now that you would probably love if you just stop hating.
That's funny. You should like offer that as like a service, like for people who like
I'll give
say
them the
they
top
hate
3.
pop.
Sometimes I'll give them 3. I'll be like, bro, 3 songs. I could give them to you right now that you would love.
I love that. Okay, so knowing me and my audience, I don't know if they're similar to me, but like I love, like you said, like the conscious rap with Lowry. What
Yes.
artist besides yourself would you recommend to me?
I really, really like these are 2 groups. Brockhampton.
Okay,
Awesome. Have you heard of Brockhampton?
I have. To be honest, I thought that was one person because
It is like, I can't tell you how many it is exactly, but I want to say it's like 8 to 12 people. It's a
okay.
large group. Might be more like 6, but like it's a bunch of like it's a couple producers, couple rappers, couple singers, and they're like the one of the more experimental hip hop like groups that you're hearing in the mainstream right now, and they're dope. Like they hit you with a rap verse and then they'll change it up and hit you with a pop verse, and it's really cool. I like them, and I also really like Spillage Village, which
Okay.
is, have you heard of Spillage Village?
I haven't, but the name is cool.
It is. Have you heard of Dreamville?
No.
Okay, so you've heard of J. Cole, without a doubt.
Oh, of course.
So J. Cole, his like label with under his label, he kind of has his own label. It's called Dreamville. They have like there's J. Cole, JID, Ari Lennox, Earth Gang, et cetera, et cetera. A bunch of really, really dope lyrical artists. And all of them individually I'd recommend, but together they kind of created this group called Spillage Village. And they put out an album last year. It was called Spilligion, like religion, but with spill in the beginning of it. And man, they just are like super talented. You can break it down and they got rhyme schemes for days. I would definitely recommend that too.
Okay. That's awesome. You have great pitches for all these artists that you love. That's awesome.
I
Very
can't just say, yeah, go check it out because I'm sure you hear that all the time. But yeah, start there. They got a couple albums that will definitely they'll keep you busy for a while.
okay, cool. And I love Kendrick Lamar too. His song
Kendrick.
Humble, that's still one of my favorite songs.
Oh, I can go word for word with that song.
Oh, I know it's an old song, but I love the meaning. And I think another thing too, like a misconception about musicians, specifically hip hop musicians, and this, I'm not saying this is you, this is just what I've seen because I've been doing interviews for 10 years. I've been going to concerts for 10 years. There's this
I
kind
don't
of,
see you 10 years, damn, she a decade in.
yeah, it's crazy. Thank you. Thank you. There's this like stigma or this misconception that you are all like arrogant and like unapproachable and stuff. And I don't know why, but I've noticed it specifically in the hip hop scene. And I'm like, why is this a thing? Because I've interviewed hip hop artists and they're very nice. Like they're not scary. So why is this happening?
Yeah, if I had to say one thing, maybe that like hip hop has like a very braggadocious nature, and like a
Mm,
lot of the time it's a very like fuck you type nature. Sorry if I'm not supposed to curse, but a very like I'm the shit and you got like so I guess in the nature of hip hop there can be a lot of people that kind of carry that image and it gets a bad rap because of that, because most other genres are very like lovey-dovey, or like they're very
yeah.
like heartbroken. Like rap is kind of one of the few that's very like I'm doing my thing, and like that's kind of there's a lot of artists that like literally that's all they do, and I can see why people think that guy doesn't look super approachable.
Yeah, that makes sense. But do you think they're playing a character? Not necessarily playing a character, but do you think that's
Well,
apart from
I'll
that?
say this, I'm sure a lot of the time they are, but like a lot of the hip hop artists in the industry that like made it out of a really bad neighborhood and like a bad life, they have they have a different upbringing to feel a different way, and like I can respect that. So
That's true. Like
this is
even
this is like a very broken down version. I'm sure a lot of the time it's just an actor, people actually are approachable, but I would have to say if they probably get that rap because a lot of the time you gotta remember where hip hop is from, and the people that represent it a lot of the time.
yeah, and I feel like a lot of people don't remember where it came from. Like I know people who like think Eminem started hip hop, and I'm like, oh, not really. Or not started it, but like popularized it. And yes,
Yeah,
it's more popular, but he did not popularize it,
of course, of course, of course.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of history behind it, and I think it's fascinating to kind of dig deeper. And I love that you know the history of it, because I feel like any artist with whatever genre they're going into, they should look into that. So it means a lot, I'm sure, to kind of the trailblazers of hip hop that you took the time to do that.
Yeah, I still try to, like, when I have long drives, I always look for like old, like a lot of the time I listen to all the new music, but like older music from the 90s, like there's certain albums that are considered like classics that like I just got around to listening to like last year, like Misconception of or Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Like I'd heard, songs, obviously it's sampled all the time in hip hop, but like there's like some albums that are like classic, couple Wu-Tang albums, like KRS-One, I went to a Big Pun. There was like a couple trips where I was like, damn, I need to just study the Grace right now and just put it on, put the whole album on shuffle and just see what's up.
Mhm. Oh, that's so cool. And what a great way to pass the time on a road trip, for sure.
Road trip, yeah, exactly. When I just have time to kill.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Know
start
it.
doing that. Yeah, and you'll have to listen to Whit Lowry on your next road trip. He's
Whit Lowry,
so good.
yes.
Yeah, I'll send you his name, but
Yeah, connect me, tap me in.
yeah. Wait, you need to collab with him. I've been trying to meet him for like 5 years
Is
and
he in LA?
uh Atlanta?
Atlanta?
Yeah,
Okay.
but he
Word.
travels everywhere.
Word. I will I'll reach out to him and see if we can get something going.
You totally should. He's very collaborative, which I love. Like
Oh, go.
I used to tweet him. I used to be like a fangirl for him. I still am, but I tamed down the tweets and like he'd respond every time. So I think it's important that artists like him, because he's like pretty big now. He worked with Ava Max, which is really cool.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
yeah, that was recent. And I'm like, I've been following you since you had 10,000 followers, and this is like so cool. So he's very into collaborating, which I think is important, and just like responding to fans. And
Just
you're
being
good about that.
accessible. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you make
Yeah,
it.
I mean, there's definitely a point where you're doing too many things to even take a look, but until you reach that point, like I think it's important to be accessible, especially when you're trying to collaborate with people and you care about like actually connecting with your fans and getting to know them a little bit too versus them just showing love to you. So that's where I'm at, and I love to see other people do that too.
For sure. And do you run your own social media? You reply to the
Oh
comments?
yeah, oh
Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Yep.
That's,
Everything is me. I definitely have like people that help me out with it, but like in
yeah.
terms of the posts and the comments, like it's all me.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Yep.
your the post you did about how you couldn't smell anything and you just smell like the strongest thing.
Oh, the COVID,
I'm like, I'm
the
so sorry,
Rona.
but it was a good test. Are you feeling better?
I'm good now. I got the sense of smell back. It was
Oh,
gone for a good week, and it was weird. I don't know if anyone has randomly lost their sense of smell, but it's weird to. I would assume any of your senses to just randomly lose it. It was weird. But other than that, I was good, thankfully. So I appreciate you asking. I'm back to normal now. I tested negative like
yay.
last couple of days ago or something, so I'm good to go.
Oh, good, good. And
Yeah.
are things open in Maryland for concerts? Because I'm in California where it's not really open. Are you able to do live shows yet?
Maryland is pretty similar to California in most of the way they do things. It's a little
Oh,
bit more open in certain areas, but I think generally speaking, the way they're going to do it is requiring a negative COVID test or a vaccine card or picture or something. I've seen that in New York. I've seen it in different states. I think they're going to do it in Maryland. Don't quote me on it, but it seems like that's going to be the tours of this year is going to be. You're going to need some identification more than just your ticket.
yeah, that's what California is shifting to. I don't think it's finalized, but I mean it's a good incentive too, because people love live music and people love connecting with others, and music is such a great way to do that. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
that's a big enough incentive, but we'll see. We'll see.
Me too. And I'm just hoping that things, stay tame enough that we can actually do these things. And, we're all just ready to move on with our lives. And I think the best way to do that is to just, do what we can and still try to have fun in the meantime. So that's what we're doing. I don't mind the vaccine card and the requirement of the test. I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
I
me
got
too.
both those out the way. So we good.
Yeah, good, good. And do you
Yeah.
have any plans to come back to LA? I know that did you used to live here?
Yeah, I did. I miss
Yeah,
it.
that's really cool.
I moved back to work on this new studio spot in Maryland. I'll be back probably in a couple months. I know I'm going to be back in November, but I'm gonna be in San Fran, not LA. But I'll probably be back before the year's up. So
Oh,
I'm gonna tap into my people out there, and I'll find out off the air where you're at in LA, and we'll try to connect when I'm out there.
yeah, for sure. I love I made a promise to everyone that I've interviewed over Zoom, like the next time you're in LA and it's safe, we got to do
We
something.
got to
And
grab some lunch or something, or
yes,
go
for
see
sure.
go see a cool show or whatever. Whatever you
Yes.
show me something fun in LA.
Oh, there's so much to do. There's always shows too. And like of every genre, every capacity. So yeah, that
I was
sounds
out in Crenshaw. I don't know where you're at right now, but I was out in Crenshaw, and it was a cool scene. And I was tapping in. I had some buddies in Hollywood and some people up in Santa Monica. So that's kind of where I roamed around when I was living out there.
yeah, I'm like 10 minutes from Santa Monica. So I'm on the
Nice,
west side.
nice.
Well, west side, best side, if you
It's
guys.
a great area. Oh, being
Yeah.
in Maryland, it's got its pros, but there's just, LA is a place like no other. And when you leave
Yeah,
it, it's like there's certain things you just miss about it, especially me.
yeah, and it's where to be for this. But I mean, now you can truly make it big from anywhere, which I think is really awesome. So
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm gonna be doing work over here and I'm gonna be doing work over there. So I'm gonna get a lot of things popping. Don't worry.
Yay. Yeah. Do you want to just plug whatever you have coming up and then your social media for us as well?
For sure. Yeah. In terms of what I have coming up, I'm about to put out a whole bunch of songs toward the end of this year. It starts with a couple features. I got a feature with an Australian artist. I got a feature with a Canadian artist. A couple different people in different countries that reached out, want to get some songs going. So you love that. And yeah, moving into this new spot, we're about to get a bunch of cool things going. So I'm gonna start a whole content rollout pretty soon. My social medias, Instagram, Brecreation. So that's gonna be Brecreation, B, and then the word recreation. Twitter, Brecreation MD, YouTube, Spotify, Brecreation, all that. Search me and you're gonna find it.
So easy. Yeah, I may or may not have originally thought it was Brecreation.
Well, my name's Breck.
Oh, okay.
So that's, yeah, it's a play on the word recreation.
Yes,
So
I
if
thought
you
it was
think
a play on
recreation,
recreation. I was like, no,
which I suppose it can be too, it's in there, but that's,
that's not
yeah,
the
Breck.
correct pronunciation though.
Yes, ma'am.
Very clever. Great stage name. So
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
of course. Well, thank you again so much for your time and getting this on your schedule. I hope
Hey,
you
thank you. I appreciate your time too.
Yeah, of course. It was so great chatting and just having like a laid back conversation. I think those make for the best interviews, just kind of talking as I would with someone over coffee. So I'm sure
Yeah,
everyone watching will take something away from it. You had a lot of great points to make. So
I hope so. Thanks to the listeners too.
yes,
Appreciate your time. I'm gonna hit you up to I'm gonna hear some of the what was it, Whit Lowry.
you
I'm gonna
got it.
check him out. I'm gonna check him out and see if we can get some lunch or something when I'm in LA.
Yes, please DM me anytime. I'd love to.
Dope. Appreciate you.
Of course, you too. Thank
Yeah,
you. Have a good one.
you too.